Those are the magnetic fields, and God wants us to wait. You know that feeling? You're in a conversation and you don't know how to get out of it?
Ja, leider kenne ich auch. Oh Gott.
You know that?
Natürlich.
Good morning, Austria. John McGill and Alexandra Augustine on FM4 Morning Show. We welcome our guest, Eugene Quinn joins us, and he's going to tell us about Tischgespräche.
Ganz genau, Tischgespräche, das ist ja ein schönes Wort dafür, wenn man am Tisch sitzt, mit jemandem isst und redet. Eine sehr gelöste, schöne Situation. Und dafür gibt es eben in unserer Sprache das wunderschöne Wort Tischgespräche.
It's a new project taking place. Basically what they're doing is they're giving us food and then taking two people who don't know each other and forcing them to talk to each other for 2 hours.
Exactly. Oh mein Gott.
We'll tell you more about it after this.
Me working night and day.
That's the new one from Hot Chip, Night and Day.
We need to talk.
We need to talk.
We need to talk.
We need to talk.
Das heißt eigentlich nie was Gutes, oder? We need to talk.
We need to talk usually indicates that there's something wrong.
Ja, ja.
But in this case, there's something very right indeed. We welcome to the FM4 Morning Show, Eugene Quinn.
Good morning, John. Good morning, Alex.
Good morning.
Now, you're part of the, you're doing this thing called Tischgespräche. It's part of Wien lebt. What was it? Vielfalt statt Einfalt.
Ganz genau.
So this is an experiment, a cultural experiment.
Yes, this is a British idea which we're bringing to the German-speaking world for the first time. It's already happened at places like the World Economic Forum. Bill Gates took part in one.
Did he really?
Here it is in Vienna.
Okay.
And,
now, what exactly is it?
Yeah, so this is 60 people who are going to come together on Saturday for a 4-course vegetarian meal. And, yeah, good food. And you're going to sit
I would
down.
stop there. That's already great. That's enough.
I know, for €5, by the way, as well.
Oh, that's pretty cheap. Yeah.
No, but the food is actually much more expensive, but it's been subsidized, so please come along. So you sit down with a stranger. We'll pair you off with somebody you've never met, and ideally somebody quite different to you. And we'll give you, you're not allowed to say anything. You're going to be given a list of questions to ask each other.
Questions to ask each other. I have to ask a stranger, for example, what?
So a typical question is something like, what have you discovered when you were traveling that you brought back to your own life at home? Or what are the limits of your compassion? When you felt most alone, what did you do to try and get better?
Who are these 60 people? They're people who registered ahead of time for this event?
Well, we're looking for people. We're trying to get a crazy mix. We want all kinds of different genders. We want people from all over the world. But the questions are in German, so ultimately that's the only criteria, really. So
and it's one-on-one? It's a 4
for 2 hours, you're
basically?
going to be sitting in front of just one person. But it's not speed dating.
It's not speed dating.
Not.
That's right.
But it's
And
also not slow dating. Because 2 hours, I mean, come on.
Well, there's been quite a few relationships have started after them, but it's important to emphasize that people will be all kinds of different ages, different sexualities, people with disabilities. So it's not just somebody who's an analog of yourself.
Okay, but this isn't just a crackpot idea. This is something that's been going on for a while. You say Bill Gates was participating in one of these things?
That's right, in Switzerland. So it's taken place in Shanghai, all around the world, but it comes out of Oxford in the UK.
Okay, and what is the point? What happens after my 2 hours, after I've met a stranger and exchanged ideas that I maybe wasn't expecting?
So
what happens then?
The idea really is that I think politics is a bit more nuanced now, that maybe in the 20th century you took to the streets and shouted and signed a petition, but it was about mass things, whereas now this is slightly more subtle, complicated idea about how to make integration work. And I'm very pleased to live in a city like Vienna where it's an active process. The city council, the red-green authorities are taking this very seriously and supporting us. And it's at Wien Museum, so you sense that the authorities are actually engaged and interested in playing around, having some fun.
And the idea is to create a conversation as opposed to my slogan versus your slogan.
Well, I mean,
Or
we
my
hope for some
soundbite
disagreement.
versus your
We don't
soundbite,
necessarily want people to agree with each other, but we want them to be surprised by each other. They're coming from different places, but everybody's going to meet up at the end. We're all going to a bar together. So,
at the end of my 2 hours with my one person, then
that's
I can go and exchange.
No event that we're organising is ever going to end officially. It just goes on and on. But we definitely. It's crazy to me that if you get some interesting people in a room together, they don't all have the opportunity to date each other or to, at least to set up some new connections across the city, some new networks. And it's a national event. Even if it's in Wien, we've got 8 of the 9 Bundesländer represented.
I like the idea.
It sounds very nice. It sounds also kind of platonic, as it were. It's not about having sex with strangers. Killer link. We couldn't resist, Eugene. We had to drag out Marianne Faithfull's Sex with Strangers for you. Yeah, perfect. So we'll listen to her, the angel with the
big tits, according
tits.
to the Rolling Stones manager. Yeah, half
Boys.
Austrian. Half Austrian.
Saw you by the waterside.
Marianne Faithfull and Sex with Strangers.
Immer wieder eine
Still
Überraschung.
controversial. How did she do that? Yeah. Be elegant, sophisticated, and controversial for 50 years. Quite the achievement. All right, so John McGill and Alex Augustine on an FM4 morning show. Now, we're talking this morning with Eugene Quinn, who's running a thing or organizing a thing called Tischgespräche, part of Wien lebt. The idea is to put total strangers together and get them to talk to each other. What a weird idea.
What a nice idea.
It is a nice idea,
But
isn't
it's
it?
not speed dating. It's about cultural exchange.
Yeah, and it's not psychotherapy, I'd like to say as well. We want people to, it's not meant to be kind of intellectual masturbation. We want people to have interesting questions, but we've translated them into German and made them hopefully fairly accessible. This is not meant to exclude anybody. There's a tendency, I think, sometimes in Austrian life to over-intellectualize things. And so
and there's also a tendency to sort of, okay, you and I are friends and we know the sort of secret code about our cultural life and stuff like that. And so we just talk among ourselves and you don't know our rules and our games anyway, so we don't care about you. And I think you're kind of working against that, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean,
it's sort of like forcing the Austrian to talk to the person from Swaziland and find out what African village life is like.
Yeah, and you might have more in common than you expect.
That's probably the thing. So now your part of it is to offer a 4-course meal for €5.
Vegetarian one.
Vegetarian
Yeah.
4-course meal for €5. I'm assuming this is being put together by a great cook.
Well, twice. I mean, there's actually 2 events. There's one in the evening in Meidling, which is not the richest neighbourhood, but with an interesting mix of people from around the world and lots of Austrians as well. And but during the day, it's at the Wien Museum, just around the corner from here.
All right. Now the thing is, what happens? Do you register ahead of time? 60.
That's right. We'd like each person to send in a couple of lines about themselves so that we understand who they are.
Where do I send that?
That's right. So Space and Place is the organisation that we've set up, and hopefully we can link to it on the website. But
on the FM4 homepage, there'll be a link for sure.
But if you Google Space and Place, you'll find us.
Space and Place.
That's right.
Or are you
right.
cool and hip with a Space and Place?
Well, we want to sort of celebrate community life and city life to warm up Vienna. Cities can be anonymous, and this is part of a series of projects to
particularly
to
Vienna. I was talking once to a guy. He works as a Vienna tour guide, so he knows all about the history of the architecture and all of that and so on. And he said an interesting thing to me once. He said, "Vienna is most beautiful when it's empty."
Well, that's
when there are
an
no
old German
people.
quotation, right? Vienna would be great without the Viennese, which is not very sympathetic.
Ohne die grantigen Wiener.
Come on, die grantigen Wiener haben das Kaffeehauskultur erfunden. And that's sort of where you're picking up on. You're picking up on a tradition of exchange.
The creator of the idea, Theodor Zeldin, who's a slightly eccentric professor at Oxford, says, "Why has this never happened in Vienna before?" He just thinks it's a perfect.
Well,
fit.
because it's always been happening in Vienna.
Exactly, it's part of a long trajectory. Hopefully.
While we're on the subject of Vienna, though, there's another thing I can tell you. There's nothing you can try that hasn't already failed in Vienna.
You sound like you've tried it and failed. Yeah.
No, but this one's really going to work. I think it's really going to work. Space and Place is the thing. What would be a success?
Well, ultimately, we'd be happy if some people get together and start a relationship. That's part of it. But it's also part of a sequence of events to ultimately, as I say, 21st century politics is a bit more subtle, a bit more nuanced. It allows you to engage with other people in a more intelligent way than perhaps in the 20th century, where you just shouted at people on the street and threw stones.
Yeah, I know.
That's still going on in Egypt, and other places, but right now...
Well, it is and it isn't, because even in Egypt, you've got social media, and so there's a kind of a conversation taking place even while the revolution is going on. And the people who are joining together are from extreme left point of view and extreme right point of view, if we can even take that over to Egypt. I don't think they have the same distinction.
Syria.
But you get the idea. Like, there are people from totally opposite ends of the spectrum realizing they have something in common, and that's what you mean, I think, by subtle politics, or?
Yeah, just something a bit more colourful and mixed up than dogma and orthodoxy.
And sloganeering.
To open up.
Yeah. Great. Okay, so Alex.
Ja, also danke, Eugene, dass du uns das alles erklärt hast.
Genau.
Für alle, die an den Tischgesprächen teilnehmen wollen, also mit jemand ganz Fremden sich austauschen und essen wollen, ein vegetarisches Essen. Samstag, 28. April ist der Tag, 13 bis 15 Uhr im Wien-Museum am Karlsplatz, zwischen 19 und 21 Uhr dann im Gasthaus Goldmarie, das ist im 12. Bezirk in Meidling. Und wir haben jetzt noch 2 Plätze zu verlosen, also nicht einmal 2 Tickets oder so, sondern 2 Plätze, 2 Teilnehmer, die sich an diesen Tisch mit den Fremden auch noch setzen können. Und ich hätte da eine Frage. Wir haben uns eine Frage vorher ausgedacht, nämlich, was würdest du einen Fremden erzählen? Tja.
Could I just add, though, that we do still have places available not to win? Yeah.
Okay.
Space
0800
and
226 996
places.
the phone number, yeah. And it's only €5, so...
Well, that's the idea. It's democratic. Anybody can afford. Almost anybody can afford it, from students, and recent arrivals.
Super
nice.
thing. Okay, Eugene Quinn, thanks for joining us on the FM4
Can I
Morning
just
Show.
say this record is from Berlin, and the reason I live in Vienna is that I met a beautiful girl from Graz, and yesterday Monica is now pregnant. We got married, and for months I've been telling anybody who would listen that I wanted a girl, and of course yesterday we went in for the 20-week scan, and it's going to be a boy. So my friends have been teasing me mercilessly, but I still plan to call because our name for the girl was going to be Whoosh.
Whoosh! But you have a second try. Maybe then it's a girl.
Oh, you mean try again later?
Try again.
Yeah. Well,
maybe your brand new baby boy would like a brand new baby sister.
Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah.
So then, congratulations to both you and Monica.
Thank you. Yeah, this is from Monica.
And this is your song.
And this is the record from Berlin where we met.
All right. At a dinner conversation, maybe?
At a radio conference, as it goes.
All right.
Ah.
We're listening to Nils Fram from Berlin. It's an album called Felt, a song called More. Very especially burned for Monica.
So. Der Philipp hat gerade angerufen und der hat gesagt, was er einen Fremden erzählen würde, das wäre seine Reise nach Indien, die er mit dem Fahrrad plant. Zum Beispiel. Ein gutes Gesprächsthema. Philipp hat einen Platz. Wir haben noch einen über für die Tischgespräche. Samstag 13 bis 15 Uhr Wien Museum, also 0800 226 996.